Tawny Man trilogy would not be nearly as good without the Farseer trilogy behind it. It is building on that trilogy's shoulders. And it's so beautiful how it does it. That it doesn't really wait for us and try to reestablish all of these relationships. It just works under the assumption that you already care about Fitz and his relationships and his adventures and just goes out the gate from there. And I loved it so much. We get all of the beautiful confrontations of Fitz coming back into his regular life that you wanted from the first trilogy, but we also get new adventures for Fitz and his growing into new things and new places and new roles in society. So, I read these books too fast. That's kind of an understatement. So I finished the Live Ship Traders, and then I started these the same day, and then I finished these 5 days later. I read them when I first got up in the morning, and I read them when I should have been eating. I read them when I should have been doing work. I read them when I was walking around. I read them when I should have been sleeping at night. Until I finally finished it. And because of that, I finished them real fast and I read them real fast, and I think I probably missed some things in my speed, but I could not put these books down because I just love these characters and these plot lines so much, and it was so well crafted. And even though I'm so behind in everything else in my life right now, from sleep to homework to everything in between, I think it was worth it because I got so much joy out of reading these so quick. And because I actually read these as an ebook, I know that it took me about 40 hours to complete them. So that's about 8 hours a day, pretty reasonable. I'm both proud and ashamed of that fact. Take that as you will. These aren't super bingeable books, and yet I did it anyway, and I loved it anyway. And one of the things I loved about these books is that Robin Hobb delivers on the themes. These books are always about something, and something more than just Fitz, but about bigger concepts. And one of the concepts that was really prevalent in the Farseer trilogy and then came back around was duty over yourself. Fitz has a duty to the Farseer monarchy, and he also has a duty to himself. He has a duty to take care of Night Eyes, and he has a duty to his 3 children. I love that Fitz can't stop taking in strays. I love his relationship with Hap, and I wish we had more of it. And I love that at the end of this series, it isn't duty versus happiness for Fitz like it was kind of in the Farseer trilogy. It's more like he's found happiness in his duty taking care of Molly's family. I love it. And there is a lot of love in these books, and it's not romantic love. And I feel like one of the themes of these books is that non-romantic love is more important than romance. Because you look at the romances in these 3 books, and they're like kind of empty and pointless and like shown to be so. Like Fitz and his love interest Jinna, the hedge witch, they're just kind of like, oh, I guess we have a romantic relationship, but not really, and actually never mind. And it's just so empty. Or like Dutiful and the crazy cat lady, like that's catfishing. Or like Hap and his girlfriend who just leaves him and steals his money. And even in the end, when Fitz does end up with Molly, it's kind of just an afterthought and not really prevalent in the rest of the books. He isn't pining after Molly over the course of these stories. But the real important relationships in here are the ones that there is such a depth of love without it being romantic, like Fitz and the Fool. This is a conversation that they have again and again about they can love each other without being romantic partners, same as Fitz and Night Eyes, or Fitz and Chade, or Fitz and Dutiful, or Fitz and Kettricken. Like, they literally kiss, like, twice in these books. Maybe more. I read these books too fast, everything's a blur. But it's just more of a platonic kind of love kiss. I don't even know. But it's definitely not emphasized with romance. It's just platonic love. And the core of all of these platonic loves is trust. That because these characters can trust each other, that's what makes the foundation of their love. Not romance, but being able to share secrets, being able to rely on each other. And I loved also the themes of building trust in these books because Fitz is not good at trusting people. My favorite scene of the book is where Chade is like, after all these years, have you given your trust to no one? And Chade wants Fitz to say, like, no, Chade, I trust you, because that's what Chade is, like, craving as his surrogate father figure. But Fitz thinks about it real hard, and he's like, the Fool? I think I trust the fool. And Chade is like, well, it's good that you trust someone, but he's kind of salty about it because Fitz doesn't trust Chade. But Fitz has decided to give his trust to the fool, which makes it even more drama, angst-filled when they have a falling out because Fitz realizes that the fool has been keeping facets of his life hidden. So my heart just broke when the fool left Fitz behind at the end. And if there was not a third trilogy, I would be so mad. But there is, so I trust that they will come back together in the end. And another theme of these books that really came out mostly in the end of the third book, and throughout that, is the pain of your mistakes leads to greater joys and love in the long term. And we see this when Fitz gets to get his memories back that he put into the dragon of torture and heartbreak, and because of it he becomes happier that he's reclaimed all of these sad memories. And I loved the parallel of Fitz being able to reclaim all of his sad memories and becoming happier for it, and him letting his adopted son Hap go through all of these hard things so that Hap could learn greater happiness one day. That Fitz wants to give Hap the ability to learn from his mistakes because this is what Fitz didn't give himself when he gave up those bad memories. That we get to see this echoing of past and present and Hap following in Fitz's footsteps. And I love that this lesson here at the end of this series validates all the pain that Fitz went through in the first series, because all of it meant something in the end. That these two trilogies really combine to rhyme with each other. That the ending of the first trilogy, which I loved, was Fitz turning his back on all the duty and all the people telling him what to do, and he's like, I'm just gonna go be a hermit. And he did find some joy being a hermit for like over a decade. But then the end of this series is the complete opposite, where he decides, I want to have a family, I want to be with Molly, I want to take care of these children. And he goes and he does it, and he accepts responsibility, and he accepts people into his life. And that's because he learned from his pain that he got in the first trilogy. And because he learned from these new adventures that duty doesn't always have to be a burden. It can be a blessing and something that makes you happier. And I love that the duty that Fitz finally found joy and acceptance with is being a father. Because that's kind of what's been missing from his life. He's got lots of surrogate father figures like Verity and Chade and Burrich, but he never trusted any of them. And now he gets to be a father to so many kids. But these two trilogies perfectly echo each other in this cycle of Fitz learning and then learning again, where he starts out with accepting his duty and striving to do it, and then he moves to finding love and prioritizing that a little bit more, and then his duty and his love conflicted, and he had to let go of his love, and then after that he was so sad and he just decided to abandon all the duty. And then at the beginning of this series, he picks the duty back up, and then now he's at the point where he's found love. And he's found happiness, and I'm sure at the beginning of the next series, that love and happiness isn't going to survive the next call to adventure. But I'm still down for it because that means he gets to reunite with the fool. It's just a different kind of love, right? I haven't reread this series yet. Definitely will one day. But even now, I can feel the desire to reread the Tawny Man trilogy. Like, I want to consume this again. Even though I did it all in 5 days, I am not burned out of this series yet. I keep laying awake at night thinking about different scenes that I wish would have happened, different scenes that I wish I could read, and I want to reread not only this series, but the Farseer trilogy because it recontextualizes it so well. Because Fitz has changed so much from way back in book 1, and I would love to see his relationships with people like Chade and Burrich and Molly through what I know now about these characters. That I want to go back and I want to see those relationships back then from what I know now. Now that I know where everything ends, I want to go back and see them take the journey again. Because I think that there's enough change in this series that would be such a wonderful thing to see happen. But I keep thinking over and over of scenes I wish I had seen in the Tawny Man trilogy, and I will list a few of them for your pleasure to imagine as well. I wish there had been more angst with Chade losing his memory and mental faculties, because that kind of happened, and then it just kind of got ignored by the end. Another thing, I'm not sure if I'd actually want to see this or not, but I can't stop thinking about Fitz bonding with another animal, like a dog or a wolf, because I don't want Night Eyes to be replaced because he was the best. Type F in the chat for Night Eyes. But also, I would love to see Fitz finding another abandoned pup somewhere and not wanting to bond with him, and then slowly bonding with him until one day he just can't deny it anymore, like what happened with Night Eyes, but again. And now that Fitz is a different person, seeing how that bond has changed for him. I would love a scene of Hap finding out about all of Fitz's adventures as Fitz Chivalry Farseer. Does he even know that he's not Tom Badgerlock? Like, I want to see that moment of realization and kind of betrayal, and yes, please, give me that angst. But I think the biggest piece of drama that I really wanted to see, and I was so disappointed I didn't get to see it, is a scene like this. Dutiful realizes that he's been skill imprinted to be loyal to Fitz. So he goes to Fitz and he's like, "What the heck, Fitz?" And Fitz is like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do it." And then they try to remove it together and they can't. And then they have to have the most awkward DTR ever where the king is now magically loyal to Fitz and they can't change it, and they just have to figure out how to live their lives without Fitz giving the king any suggestions or orders and taking his orders, and just like having to build a relationship on such a foundation of trust. Because at that point, their relationship could only get thrown out or be built on a foundation of even greater trust, and I wanted to see that DTR. Please. Like, I wanted those long-term consequences, because when he first skill imprinted Dutiful on accident, I was so shocked and shook and excited for the eventual DTR that never happened. So, disappointed. And there are a bajillion other scenes I wish would have happened here. But I think the fact that there are so many scenes that I wish would have happened and drama that I wish would have been milked and weren't is just a testament to how good this series is, that it has so many extra spaces of drama that it doesn't even need to use them all. Like, this series was not lacking in drama. It just is overflowing in it at such a rate that there are some that wasn't even tapped. So, this series is so good. It's so good in how it sets up the plots so that there is an ever-flowing fountain of drama. It's so good in how it sets up the characters, but even better in how it sets up the character relationships that slowly evolve over books and that you care about so much. At this point, I can't remember what some of the plots were, but I do remember how they made me feel, which was entertained and shocked and overjoyed and so ready to jump into this realm of the Elderlings.